As I said before, this is a Power Pack show, and with that, we are going to still stay in a political people-type mode, and I have with me the honor of having Gwen Goodwin, and she's brought to her husband and your campaign manager.
Well, this is one of our colleagues, Lawrence Killebrew, who worked on the campaign, the entire campaign. So he was really a fantastic worker and still a very good friend to my husband and I. And he was with me and saw a lot of things during the campaign, including when Melissa Mark-Viverito came to my house.
Okay, now bring us up to date on the circumstances around you and the council speaker.
Okay.
You ran against her. You're from the district that
Yes.
she's from.
Yes.
And well, you tell us.
Well, I'm actually really from the district. I'm from District 8.
Okay.
I've been there for 30 years.
Right.
Melissa Mark-Viverito was moved up to be run as a city council person 12 years ago. And so under her jurisdiction, we've seen enormous amount of destruction in the community in the way of gentrification. It was she who spearheaded the rezoning of 125th Street, giving away 9 low-income buildings to Columbia University. When you rezone a district like that, you are changing the population. I just found out the other day that Macy's plans to open on 126th Street and I think Amsterdam Avenue. Now, a lot of people will say that's really great. It will bring jobs and it's going to bring, shopping to our area. But I think that people should also look at what happens when places like Macy's come on board. If you look at Macy's 34th Street, you do not see a lot of low-income buildings there. And the population shifts and changes. And so we never really got from Ms. Viverito, well, we've given her an opportunity to use us as a stepping stone to fulfill her greater political aspirations. Mm-hmm. But we have not gotten very much from her except for lots of massive gentrification and a lot of vindictive behavior on her half, and not really any kind of representation. I should say that had I won the election in 2009, that I would have, well, actually, it was 2005 was the first election where she won. I would have ran on the ticket to stop the rezoning of 125th Street. As a matter of fact, I did. In 2005, when I originally ran, the rezoning of 125th Street was posed to our community as something called Uptown New York. And so it was the first proposal. It wasn't as sweeping as what actually happened in 2008. So in 2008, it didn't just go from the east side over to Fifth Avenue. It carried all the way over to the west side, smack into Columbia University, giving away 9 low-income buildings to Columbia University so they could expand their for-profit business, which is a college. I have nothing against colleges, but I have a big problem with dislocating very vulnerable populations. And let's face it, people that are living in public housing are very, very vulnerable. And that's why I think that it's been really devastating for us to have this kind of representation. We really didn't have any representation. We had somebody who didn't fight for us. We had somebody who sold us out most of the time.
All right, let me see if I can slow this down so people can get up to speed.
Sure.
What you are saying is that Melissa Mark-Viverito is actually came from, or at least this is what I took from some of the information that was sent to me, mm-hmm. that she is a person of wealth and substance who
yes.
came from a real estate background.
I wouldn't say, I don't know that, I wouldn't say real estate background.
Well, her wealth is
her
based,
father,
right.
Her father was part owner of a hospital, the largest hospital in Puerto Rico. Both of her parents are from the United States.
Okay.
And they moved down there, and this is what I understand from reading about her, is that they moved and they invested in this very large hospital, and when her father died, he left her quite a bit of money. Mm. However, just right after he died, she applied to live in a unit of housing which was set aside for low-income families, which did not have any credit established, but had been working for 10 or more years. So this was in order to get people living in their own homes in East Harlem that could not afford to buy a house or didn't have that line of credit. When Melissa applied for this townhouse, which is 3 stories high and has 3 apartments in it. She did not disclose the fact that her father had just died. Her father died in September, I believe, in 1997. She made the application in December of 1997 and didn't say that she was coming into this enormous amount of wealth. As a matter of fact, it's very puzzling because somehow or other that wealth does not show up on the radar for 5 years after the fact.
Mind you said he had a business and the business, a hospital, and the hospital
largest
was
hospital
sold
in Puerto Rico
for $165 million, and somewhere there is no record of how much
she would take in after her father died. So when her father died, and by the way, she knew that she was coming into money because, according to the papers I received, she was in in the meetings where the father was talking to her about his will. So it wasn't like she didn't know that she was going to come into this money. So she now lives in a home that was designated for a family, that is designated for low income, and she has a lot of money. She has 4 condominiums that she partially owns in Puerto Rico. She herself owns 7 acres around Vieques, which is of course why she protested against Vieques, because she didn't want her land to be spoiled. I wouldn't either.
So she has, you're contending she has 4 condominiums plus 7 acres in Vieques.
Yes. Of pristine land.
And a reported wealth of somewhere between $1 and $2 million, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that it was the reporter from the New York Daily News who put these statistics out. I actually believe he's lowballing it. And there's also rumored that Melissa doesn't just own her townhouse on 111th Street, but she also owns the one next to it as well. However, no one has been able to substantiate that. But the thing about these townhouses, which is really kind of interesting, understand these are in a lottery system. So, you know, the way it's supposed to work is you put your name in there, and you may or you may not be picked out. You know, Melissa puts her application in December, and by January, she's been picked. Well, I just find that very hard to believe because there's thousands of people who apply for these townhouses. However, it has also been told to me on, you know, that she is related to the developer of these townhouses. It was told to me, and I have not substantiated it,
okay.
So I am only telling you what I was told. But I was told that her cousin is married to the developer. So this may be why she was able to get in, but that is not lawful. That is not how it's supposed to be. So understand that Melissa lives in a 3-story townhouse and pays no property taxes. She probably has a mortgage less than, I think her mortgage is like $70,000 now. And she's sitting on a property that's valued at $1.2 million, that actual building. So, you know, here we are in East Harlem, we're all struggling. You know, my husband's a postman. Mm-hmm. We're not, you know, making those kind of bucks. Mm-hmm. And somebody just, you know, comes in I think it was 1997 she came up, she says, and, you know, slides into this townhouse and then immediately gets put on the community board. And it seems that she worked everywhere for like 15 minutes, you know, just to establish that she had that record. I even think it was told to me that she worked at the SEAU for only 6 months. So it wasn't this, you know, long-term deal. So, you know, what we see now is a speaker who really, to me, has a very a past that doesn't hold a lot of water. I mean, it doesn't really show that she was really working for these positions. She was working to get a position in powerful government, and she finally has this position because Mayor de Blasio did push her through. Did ram her down the throats of New York City's citizens and the City Council, and now she is where she is.
You have a lawsuit pending. You're contending that she has used extraordinary means to harass you.
I think so. I think most people would find
help us understand.
I think that people find it very extraordinary. That right before the election, about 3 weeks before the election, there was a group that came to our building, and they painted a mural of a mutilated bird on my building from the top to the bottom. Our building is 6 stories high. This is a picture of a bird's head, and it has no body, and it's sitting in a basket, and the basket is impaling the bird from the side. Now, we did not know what this was. We did not understand what it was, and we really didn't know. She had a ceremony on our street for it. the painters that were doing.
She had a ceremony on your street for an impaled bird.
Right, exactly.
Okay, cool.
So she had this ceremony to do this. And we did not know what this meant. A lot of my neighbors were very troubled. Women across the street living at the homeless shelter said they thought it was a very violent image. And so I asked one of our local Puerto Rican artists, and he told me, he said, what this means is problem solved. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, you can consider it to be something like if you had a picture of Obama and you put a noose next to it. Or you can think of it like a swastika put on a temple. And he said, you should understand something. Just because you are not of this particular culture does not mean you should not take it seriously, because it is serious. And he said, in my opinion, it's a death threat. So I really got very nervous about that. And, you know, Melissa had been using a lot of intimidation tactics through the summer while she was, you know, running for her campaign. But this, to me, was completely over the top. And I found out that, you know, not only did she team up with my landlord to put this on my building, but my landlord, before she put it on the building, had given her $5,500 in campaign contributions. Now, what the audience needs to understand is ever since my landlord has bought our building back in 2007, he has been trying to evict me many, many times because I'm a rent-stabilized preferential tenant. And I've won my cases, all of them.
Who's your landlord?
My landlord, the landlord company is called Eastside Managers.
Okay.
And specifically, it was Jerry Flynn who was outside with her when she was, you know, putting this piece of work up. And we had an incident happen right after it was up. I had my campaign poster in my window in the 5th floor. Now, it's pretty amazing. Our campaign poster looked like a postage stamp up there, even though it was 6 feet across and 3 feet wide, because the picture of that decapitated bird is so enormous that you really didn't even notice our campaign banner. But Lawrence and I were out, and we came home, and Lawrence saw Melissa with my landlord and his daughter and the artists. And so, do you want to tell them what you saw?
They were doing a cherry pick. What'd you call that?
They were on a
cherry pick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I looked up the block and I said, Gwen, I said, there's somebody going up towards your window. They're taking off your banner. They literally took the banner off the window. It was attached to a window, the gates on the window.
Oh,
it was attached to the wall. It was attached to her window, to her apartment where she pays rent. And they took it down. So while we was walking the block, I saw Melissa across the street with some other people that she must have brought up from Puerto Rico, whatever.
No, they were the artists. They were the artists.
Did they send you any kind of letter saying that they were going to take the banner down prior to taking the banner down?
No.
When I asked the landlord, I seen him, the guys brought it down and gave it to him. And he was running, he rolled it up, and he was running towards his SUV, his car. And I said, hey, what you doing? I said, man, give me that back. That don't belong to you. And he jumped in the car and drove off. And his daughter was there, so his daughter said, we didn't steal anything. Nobody mentioned anything about stealing anything. Why would she say that? The funny thing, the ironic thing is, I'm the only one that got a report written on me that day.
Well, he's black.
I'm the only black guy there.
Right. That was
Everybody else was different. They said, well, okay, we'll just write.
What did they say in the report? What did they say you did?
Well, here's what happened. I called the police, and I reported it. And it is reported as a petty larceny. And I think what people need to understand is that the Speaker of the City Council not only stood there and watched the petty larceny take place, but she participated, because what had happened was she had called the landlord, and the landlord told her, you may send your artists up in the cherry picker. They can take the banner down and give it to me. Really? Well, guess what? You have no right to take my possessions. So the police did come. The police did do a report. It is out as petty larceny, but the police refused to follow up on it after it was over. They wouldn't. I told them exactly where they could find my landlord, where his office was, and they just refused to do anything about it. So basically, you know, they said, well, we just tacked this up to political tricks. Really? Well, I don't know. I mean, I just can't see, like, Nancy Pelosi going to Hillary Clinton's house and painting a gigantic picture of a mutilated bird and then stealing one of her banners. I mean, this is outrageous behavior for the person who is now the Speaker of the City Council. And I think the thing that's been very frustrating to me is that the actual lawsuit was filed in December. And then it hit, you know, I guess the reporters went down and saw it, and it hit the newspapers, and they did call me, and I did give them a story. You know, I did tell them what happened. But, you know, the way the story was placed in the New York Post was very, I'm sure it was disturbing for Melissa, but it was equally disturbing to me. Because, you know, basically they made me sound like I was a lunatic for doing this. And I think what's really, really frustrating is it hasn't just been the right; it's been the left too. We listen to a very, you know, we listen to a very progressive radio station, and one of the hosts had guests on the show where they did nothing but berate me and call me crazy and awful names. And the thing was, we couldn't call on the show. My husband and I both listened to it, and it seems that
did they mention the bird? I'm trying to figure out what kind of ceremony you could. Is the bird still there, or did they?
It will never come. You know, it would be so hard to take that down. It's enormous. I don't know whether it'll go up on the screen and you could see it, but it's enormous.
Well, what were they celebrating about? I'm trying to figure out. It's not like Cinco de Mayo. It's like what is the significance? What did they say the significance of?
Well, we weren't at the ceremony.
Celebrating the bird.
You can see how big it is on the screen. Yeah. Okay, and so it's enormous, and that's my window, and that's a little banner.
It was called Family Day. I think it was.
Well, no, Family Day was up the street, but Melissa had a specific unveiling for this piece of work. Right, and I think that what's more important than the ceremony is what happened. I mean,
and there's no commercial attachment to it.
No, nothing. This is what was really. This is a part of our lawsuit where we bring up the fact that this bird serves no purpose other than to harass and intimidate me, because it does not actually give value to the building. It decreases the value of the building. So the landlord is not going to get anything more for doing this. It doesn't give him a capital gains improvement. It doesn't do anything to give him more money for the building. But what it did do was it gave Melissa Mark-Viverito an opportunity to collaborate with a very hostile landlord where they both do not like me. So they both teamed up together and they tag teamed me. Both of these people are multimillionaires, and both of these people have had a hostile relationship with me since, you know, my landlord trying to take back my apartment. And it seems to me that frustrating that I am the one who continues to be ridiculed by the so-called progressive press when I'm the victim. Let's remember, I did not go to Melissa Mark-Viverito's house and paint anything on her house. I did not even go to her house to protest anything. The only times I have ever challenged Melissa Mark-Viverito is about her decisions that she has made in her time in the City Council. And that, to me, is inbounds. But, you know, we spoke to a psychiatrist on WBAI last week about this. And, you know, he pretty much said exactly what I said, what I thought. This is what I thought at the beginning. I mean, this is a person that would do, I asked him about the motivation of a person who would do something like this. And he said, you know, a person like this is clearly a bully. You know, he said, bullying is not just for children. He says, clearly a bully. It's clearly a person that does not have boundaries. Just has no kind of boundaries. Shows a sophomoric side to their personality. And you know, what I got from all that, you know, again brought me back to that thought of, should this really be the Speaker of the City Council? And what is so distressing is that we don't hear anybody talking about it. We hear about Chris Christie's terrible behavior. And I grant you that Chris Christie's behavior was outrageous. But are you kidding me that because Ms. Viverito is a Democrat, that she should get a pass on this kind of behavior? There are some other pictures that we can show you from 111th Street. I don't know whether we can get them on the monitor, but these are very outlandish pictures.
I know they're working on it.
Okay, so
I think you wanted to chime in, and then I'll let you say something.
Well, it's very important to mention that Gwen saved PS 109 since, I think, 1999.
Yeah,
saved the school from being demolished under Giuliani.
It was actually under the Board of Education.
Yeah, but the mayor at the time was Giuliani, right?
Yes. And
then Bloomberg. And what happened is Bloomberg and Melissa got their wish with developers to change this in 2013, to change this or transform the school into a residence for artists.
Residence for artists?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So see the connection? And what the Post did, and you know the Post, racist and divisive, what they did was they talk about the bird, but they don't give the people, the readers, a connection to art. That school, like
I'm
I
curious,
said,
what did they say about the bird?
Well,
no, I want to say.
I'm trying to figure out how.
No, they put the. Well, they said that they belittled the situation and mocked Gwen by saying she's being affected by voodoo and it's a hex. That she
But
said it was a
again,
hex.
my question has nothing to do with Gwen. My question is specifically about the bird.
they thought it was outrageous. They did think. I mean, there's nobody who hasn't seen it that doesn't think it's outrageous.
Okay.
And the radio station that you said they alluded to the bird. What did they say about the bird?
They said, if you can believe it, it was so. They said that the bird was a bird of migration. Excuse me, doesn't a bird have to have a body to migrate?
Hold on. They said the bird was a bird of
migration.
They justified the existence of the bird on the building as
to
being a
protect
bird of
Melissa.
migration.
Right. So they didn't tie together that this happened 3 weeks before the election. They didn't discuss the fact that Melissa stood on while they stole the banner.
I'm still trying to find
I got
out
something
what the
else for you.
connection of the bird is to
Well, it's
the
a painting.
community.
Here's what she did.
There is
Can I say
no
something?
So nobody
I'm
asked that
getting closer
question.
to what you
Okay,
want.
yeah. Help me.
All right.
Help me here.
This woman is Melissa is having people come into the community and this this transformed building, which was a school, and now it's going to be a residence for artists. So you connect art with the art put on that building. It's
But is
like
the bird
Melissa.
attributed to an artist? Because I'm from the East Village, what we call the Lower East Side.
Right.
We have art on. Generally, the art
Right.
is indicative of some political structure, and we
Exactly.
know the artist.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is this
all
is
right.
done by this artist,
Right.
that artist.
Yeah.
Does the bird have any connection to any artist or
No.
No,
within
what
the
it is-
community?
no, what it is
Is it
art.
designed to help
It's like-
anybody
no.
advance?
Honey, let me. I just want to tell him about. Okay, here's what happened. These artists were flown in from Puerto Rico. They are not from our community.
Okay.
Our community artists were angry about this. Okay, because this was a paid job. These people were paid to do the work. So no artist was contacted to do this work. They were flown in and they put this bird on the building. Now, the bird has nothing to do with our community at all, because the only thing that people who live in the community who have said anything to me are the people that are fearful of it. I have a woman who is of Caribbean descent who said, "I want that thing off your building because my son lives on this block too, and it's not a good thing." And she went on to say, "I want you to go out to Brooklyn. I think you need to speak to somebody about this." And then another woman, said, "I need to go through my house with all kinds of, sage and things." Okay, here's the deal. I don't care what anybody believes in. I don't care what your religious persuasion is. To me, the bird is simply an act of hostility. You can't think that having an animal that's mutilated put on the side of your building is an act of kindness, okay? And there have been other equally disturbing, I would actually even think a little bit more disturbing, put on further up the community. We have a picture of something that looks like a Martian, holding a Pan Am airplane. Pan Am is not exactly associated with good things. And, as you look next to that mural, there's 4 pictures. One is a picture with a woman with her head turned backwards. Another one is a man who has no head with smoke coming out of it. Another is a woman that's being blinded. There's the picture of the well, that's the airplanes, but the other part before that is there's another piece to this. There's the 4 pictures that I was just describing to you now. But if he can bring back the first picture of the before the airplanes of the Martian, because that's a really scary thing. I think, and
these are on your building.
This is it. Now, this was put on 111th Street. Okay.
111th Street.
Now, the thing about we can't see.
And what, Lex, Third, what?
Third Avenue.
Third.
Now,
Third.
normally when people put murals up, there are murals all over the city, and because murals go every place in the city, they usually have some roots in the community, and they're usually a little bit more neutral because, art is subjective. It can offend people or people can embrace it, but You know, there's nothing about these images that makes anybody in my community that I spoke to so far feel happy. When the
community art generally reflects the culture of the community.
Right.
Like on 104th Street and Lexington Avenue.
Beautiful.
There's a small mural of Pedro Pietro.
Right.
Okay, I can understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
And when Gil Scott Heron passed away, they made murals of Gil Scott Heron, or they'll make. These don't seem to reflect cultural consciousness, and it doesn't. And I'm trying to figure out what is the connection. Does it put a little money in the pockets of local artists? Does it? No one has alluded to any connection between local artists, or the culture that they come from.
I think it's very basic, and the idea is that Gwen and she were,
rivals. I mean,
okay.
And it's a
so she's saying,
and fear.
This is the way I interpret it, and I'll keep that interpretation. The point being, so you want this, you want that school, but we want to have a residence for artists. Well, I'll show you, I'll give you art. And then we're not against artists. We're not saying that.
No, nobody's...
But to put it on the rival's building, I mean, it's a personal thing right there.
Where's the residence at?
Okay, I'll just, since...
It's like
the school.
It's like Touche.
PS 109 is right down the street from us. PS 109 is a gorgeous, beautiful school that I stopped the illegal demolition of in 1999 and started my group called the Coalition to Save PS 109. We went on to landmark.
Where's it located?
It's on 99th Street between 3rd and Lex. Okay, so it's literally like right down the street from me, and I can see it from my window. Well, what we did was the Board of Ed was illegally tearing it down, and we were able to stop the demolition. We made the Board of Ed put the roof back on, which cost $5 million, and then we landmarked it. And then Melissa got into office. Now, we went on to fight for 12 years to turn it back into a public school because East Harlem has a 75% dropout rate. We are down by 2 high schools. This year, we're going to drop a high school into an elementary school that already has 5 schools in it because we did not have any property to put a new high school in. Although, before they made that decision, I had gone to that school and had told the parents, we are sitting with an empty building on 99th Street, which will have 1,200 available seats for the children of East Harlem if you would lobby your city council person to do the right thing. Because in our neighborhood, the way I see things is like a triage. And the emergency for us in our neighborhood is education. 75% dropout rate. 86% of our schools are overcrowded. I can't tell you that we have the luxury of using empty schoolhouses and turning them into nonsense for artists. Nobody has anything against artists. I'm an artist myself. But this society has to look at children and understand they're your future. You do have to make an investment. I heard somebody complaining on Channel 1 last night about not wanting to pay higher taxes for the development of children's programs because she said it didn't have anything to do with her. She had no children. Well, guess what? I don't have any children either. But I know that if you don't nourish and feed those minds, you're going to end up with trouble in the future. So it's very much to society's advantage to take care of children. And this was an opportunity to turn this building back into a functioning public school. And so when I hear Melissa talk about how she feels about public education, I mean, everything she says is different from everything she does. She says she doesn't believe in charter schools, but she put several up in East Harlem. She blocked PS 109 from being turned back into a public school. So we lost that. And now...
He's going to put a phone call through.
No.
While they're working on that, you can just put it through when it comes. I have a quick question.
Sure.
You said they were trying to evict you from your residence.
Yes.
What grounds are they using?
Originally, when my lease ran out in 2007, I'm a preferential rent tenant. I'll just quickly explain what that means. When I first moved into the building, my apartment was really a bomb. It was a wreck. So I made a deal with the original landlord that if I did these repairs, that she would lower the rent. And what that meant was that all rents after that would be based on that original lower rent. Okay? So when the new landlord bought the building, he challenged that law.
Oh, okay.
And because he challenged the law, we were in several years of litigation. Not only did I win the case, but the case was in the New York Law Review, and it was one of the 50 notable cases of all the cases in New York for that year.
Let me, caller, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Excellent. Do you have a question or a comment or...
Well, yes, it's more of a comment. I was there with Gwen Goodwin And I went to PS 109, and I was all for them reopening PS 109, and with all the hard work that that woman done, I mean, wow, you know, and then for Melissa to come in and do what she did to the school, it really hurt this neighborhood very bad. And I hope people realize how much that we really need education, you know, in this neighborhood. And you know as well as I know, sir, that with the schools that we do have in this neighborhood, it's not the proper education that they're supposed to be receiving because of, you know, other entities and things. But what I must comment on Gwen Goodwin, she did one great job with PS 109. It's just a shame that we lost that. And we need more people like her, and we can do it.
All right, thank you, caller. Why do you think Melissa Mark-Viverito is taking the competition between the two of you so personal that she would go to these lengths? It seems a bit weird.
Well, look, I don't know Melissa Mark-Viverito on a personal level, and I think that it's a sign of her incompetence and fear. Because when I am involved in anything that she's involved with, it's questioning her decisions. And it's always a problem because Melissa loves to tell everybody that she's of the 99%, but the fact of the matter is she's of the 1%, not the 99%. And she loves to pretend that she knows what people that are working class and poor are going through. But in fact, she never experienced that. She has no idea. And that doesn't mean you can't have empathy. There are certainly limousine liberals that have done some great things in this world. But I'm telling you, you can't come to the table and say you're against gentrification and rezone the entire corridor of 125th Street, giving 9 low-income buildings away, and come back to the table and say, you know, I'm against gentrification. It's just not...
We got another call, and we're running out of time. So I want to squeeze this call in. Caller, if you're there, chime right in. We only have like a minute and a half.
Yes. Yes. Hello. Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Okay. I want to say that you know, they're picking this Mark-Viverito to be the Speaker of the City Council, which is the next highest position to the mayor. And in some ways, strategically, you could say that sometimes can even outweigh the mayor because she controls all the agendization in the City Council. Now, this is somebody who, in her own district, is running as a 2-time incumbent and only can get 1/3 of the votes. 2/3 of the people in her own district voted against her. In a field of candidates, none of whom had previously held public office, it shows that she's hated in her own district because of all the damage that she's done through this justification. She had more money than anybody else. She had more matching funds than anybody else. She even got additional matching funds because she said she was so afraid of the strength of some candidate in the Bronx. His name was Belina Cardoso, I think. So she, Cardona, that is. And she, in other words, she said, "I'm afraid of this candidate. You're going to give me even more matching funds."
All right, caller, I'm gonna have to cut you off. We only have a minute left, and you got like 30 seconds to wrap this up. We're off in less than a minute. You just fed us the black. You don't even have to worry about closeout music.
For someone in that capacity, and for her to authorize someone to take some properties from someone else, and don't be prosecuted for that. I can't understand that. She stole something which is petty larceny,
10 seconds.
And she got away with it.
10 seconds.
I think the city has made a bad choice making her the speaker. You've built your house on sand, and I think it's going to be reflective over the next 4 years.
Let us know. We're going to have you back, and you can tell us what's going on with the case, and we'll get into it a little more. We'll see you next week. We're out of here in 10 seconds, and we'll see you next week. Peace. We're out.